Hello, everyone. My name is Tiffany MacLennan. As I wrote quickly in the chat, I am a researcher for the Maple League currently, um, and I am a St. FX chemistry graduate. Awesome. All right, so what I'm researching through the Maple League is integrating high impact practices into higher education, which you'll learn really shortly really kind of blends in with the topic of experiential learning overall, which is why I'm joining with Jennifer and Charlene today. So I'm going to take a few minutes just to explain high impact practices and their benefits to students and institutions. So high impact practices are a series of 11 different types of activities that are usually defined as learning practices that promote deeper learning through increased student engagement. So you can see here that there is 11 different types of activities. There was originally 10, another one was added in 2011, and they kind of range all the way from things that students do individually up to very collaborative different types of projects and assignments and stuff like that. So just going into what makes a practice high impact. So there's a good amount of different things that go into making a practice high impact, but kind of the big three that I wanted to chat with you about today is the increased communication between students and faculty or students and peers on purposeful topics. So things like the work that they're doing or projects that they're working on, that engagement between the students and the faculty helps students to feel more comfortable. They learn significantly more than if they're just doing things on their own. And that's one of the reasons that that a practice becomes high impact. Another one is that it allows students to apply their education outside of the classroom. As we'll see later in this presentation, we're going to be talking about kind of integrating the same things within the classroom, but it allows students to apply their knowledge in ways that isn't just studying for a test, writing down the multiple choice answers, putting it really into practice. Another one is that students are given frequent feedback on their performance, and something that I did not mention but is important is frequent and constructive feedback on their performance. One of the things that come up pretty often through the literature is people's ability to give feedback to students and students' ability to take feedback. And one of the things that come up over and over and over again in the literature is that students who do have very frequent and constructive feedback with their professors or supervisors or faculty can help them feel more supported by their faculty or supervisors and makes them feel more comfortable within the environment. So a pretty interesting outcome. Some other outcomes from high impact practices in general, increased student retention. So being able to see that students who participate in one or more high impact practice do usually persist throughout university at a higher rate than their peers, increased GPAs, increased student-faculty interactions. As I had mentioned, that's one of the things that make a high-impact practice high impact is the consistent communication between the two groups. You can read the rest, but I wanted to really touch on kind of the bottom point where students from underserved backgrounds receive the greatest benefits from participating in high-impact practices. One of the things that I didn't write on this slide is that at the same time, these groups of students are usually the groups who participate the least in these practices. This is because of a variety of different reasons, whether it's, students who are low income, for example, have to work a lot of hours to be able to afford their education and stuff like that. So there's a lot of different reasons why students who are historically underserved don't participate as much, but there's significant studies that show that they benefit substantially from participating in high impact practices. So I think my small hypothesis, gone untested, but hopefully in a year we'll see some results, is that with the moving to kind of an online or blended type of model, that we're going to give students more opportunities to participate in these different types of activities that maybe they wouldn't have been able to otherwise. So my fingers are crossed that we're going to see higher participation from students who could really benefit from these types of activities. So I just wanted to focus in on 3 different high impact practices really quickly. that pertain to the rest of the presentation. So the first one is collaborative assignments and projects, internships and field experiences, and capstone courses. So you can see under each I have listed some of the different types of benefits that students receive from participating in these 3 types of practices in particular. And between all 3, they all have kind of the similar outcomes that the generalized high impact practices have that I mentioned in the slides previously, but some really interesting ones, especially for kind of looking into younger years, because when you think about internships and stuff like that, usually people tend to push them a little more towards 3rd years, 4th years, when you're higher up in your degree. Is doing things like this in an earlier stage of a student's education can help ease their transition into university. Like I said, it does increase student retention, and as we all know, that the years that we usually lose the most amount of students is 1st to 2nd, so being able to mend that gap is any way to do it is always a great way. So with internships and field experiences, another thing that students really care about right now is that it gives them a competitive edge in the job market, especially I know my friends and I, having graduated in 2019, 2020 area, I think we're all pretty stressed about what the job market looks like going for the year ahead, but doing things like internships and field experiences can give students a competitive edge in the job market. And then the last point that I have, capstone courses and projects, allows students to kind of take everything that they learned and bring it to one area. And capstone courses and capstone projects don't always look the same. It could be something really interesting that I think Charlene is going to mention and talk about a little bit more on what those looks like and how to make it a little more exciting than, your usual 60-page thesis. Always a blast, but there's fun things to do too. And then just really lastly, that's my email. That's all I have to say for now. I'm currently doing research on how to integrate high-impact practices into online environments, and I am basically a walking textbook at this point. So if you're looking for information, come find me.
So my name is Charlene Marion. I'm the Experiential Learning Coordinator for Business at Bishop's University, and I'm also the co-chair of the Experiential Learning Committee at Bishop's. And I'm really excited to talk to you a little bit more about how to really integrate some EL into your courses, which I see on the line. We have students and we also have some professors. So keeping in mind that if you're a student, this can be student-led. So hopefully this trickles some ideas and you can talk to your professors or experiential learning and will offices at your universities, or spark a little interest in professors today. So Tiffany's done a really great job at setting it up of what I'm going to talk about today, but I just wanted to start by focusing in a little bit more on what is experiential learning or experiential education. We all realize that it's learning by doing, but what I'm going to focus on today is a little bit more around the curricular notion that encourages reflection and a way to develop new skills, new attitudes, and ways of thinking. And we all know that, essentially learning by doing covers a whole lot of different activities that are out there. However, I want to focus in on curricular. And what does curricular mean? One of sort of 2 things. It can be embedded in a course where there are specific learning outcomes that are attached to it. Or it can be a standalone course, a 4-credit experience that is often very relevant. So think about what Tiffany was talking about here is that internship or field experience, whereas embedded in a course, you can think a little bit more around the capstone idea and applied research. So what are some really good conditions for curricular EL? First and foremost, the learning outcomes of the experience should be clearly defined, and that usually, comes with your course objectives. It should be supervised, so that means by a faculty member or someone, an EL or WIL professional. There should be a clear link between theory and practice. That there's a reflective component and, there's a lot of discussion around what makes up a reflective component? Should it be part of the marking scheme? You know, in a perfect world, there are actually, you know, grades. There's a percentage allotted to reflection. However, not necessarily. It could be part of a class discussion. It's just ensuring that students are thinking about what they've actually learned and sort of going back to Kolb, his experiential learning cycle. And finally, there's some type of link and a little bit of thought put in around competency development. So a couple of examples. What can curricular EL look like? And this is not an exhaustive list by any stretch of the imagination, but it gives you a little bit of an idea of what you can think about. So it could be classroom-based, where we look at case studies, guest speakers, field trips, lab work, panel discussions, role-playing simulations, where we can also have, on the flip side, work integrated. So where there's a host organization that's involved. So through applied research projects, entrepreneurial activities, fieldwork, internships, professional practice, so the practicum, and service or community-based learning. And they're kind of, you know, on the call here today, or on the call, on the video, there are probably sort of two schools of individuals. There are those of you that are maybe just thinking about how do I integrate experiential learning in there? So you're just kind of ready to dip your toe in the water and find out a little bit more. So those classroom-based ones where we're talking about case studies or guest speakers or panels, field trips, those types of things might be a really great place to start. Maybe you're just totally ready to dive in and go for it. So this is where these work integrated ones might be a little bit more exciting, and where, or live case studies or challenges that Jennifer will talk about a little bit later on. So I've kind of chosen to focus a little bit more on the let's just dive right in. And I think from both a student and faculty standpoint, this is where it gets a little bit more high impact and it's a little bit more exciting. So I've focused a little bit more on the applied research. Applied research, students are engaged in research that particularly occurs in the workplace. So you kind of think of like a triangle where you have the student, the faculty, and a host organization, and that learning happens in the middle of that little triangle. And this can include consulting projects, design, you know, community-based research, but essentially, you're involved with working with a partner, with an industry partner on some type of interesting work. So how do you get started? And sometimes that's the biggest thing. It's just, oh my goodness, I'd like to do this, but I'm really not sure where to start. And so I propose sort of an 8-step, and there are other ones that are out there. I'll talk to you a little bit about the EL toolkit that's been developed from colleagues at Brock and Niagara College. But, you know, step 1 is just, you have to ask yourself, is your course conducive to working with an organization? And maybe it's not. You know, how many students do I have? What are the learning outcomes? Does it all really match? That's kind of the first thing that you need to ask yourself. Secondly, talk to someone who's done it before, whether that's within your institution or whether that's across the Maple League or another colleague at another institution or your EL office. You know, talk to them and get some ideas. Then think about what are some of the organizations that could be interesting, that could be interested in working with a group of students, that might be interested in getting some students involved. Then, as you're working on developing your syllabus with your outcomes, what could be the possible deliverables, you jump into outreach. And this is often where the scariest part is, oh my goodness, I realize I maybe don't have a lot of connections. I'm a new faculty member, or I'm not sure where to start. So, you know, Jennifer will talk about how Rypen can be a really great platform to start and discover all the different industry partners that could be out there. You know, or you can work with, if you have an EL or WIL office, and I'll provide a couple of different other options a little bit later on. Next step is now you need to meet with that potential partner. That's where you sort of get all the details out and create and align your expectations. I'd say one of the biggest challenges about doing an applied research project with a partner is just making sure that everybody is on the same page around expectations. Creating then a feasible project timeline. So this is where your project management skills come in. You know, can we do this over the course of the semester? Is it a short-term project? How many weeks are the students actually going to need to be able to to conduct this applied research project. And finally, figuring out assessment. How are you going to measure the success of the student here? And I'll propose a couple of options in a little bit. So I like to break it down in terms of two different ways for assessment. So you have your nice little experiential learning activity or applied research project. First step is looking at what your learning outcomes are. What are the course objectives? What are some of the very specific or department or course specific technical skills that are coming out of there? And then what are some of the other, maybe inadvertent non-technical skills that are coming out of your course? And then going a little bit deeper and talking about, okay, what are the competencies that I'm really hoping to measure that students are going to acquire within this experience? And how do I measure that actual competency development? I'll say that, if any of you have researched self-assessments, you come to find out that they're not always the best way of measuring things. However, we are a little bit limited often in terms of resources and time. So the student self-assessment at least will minimally give you a feedback on what the perception is of student learning and how they've developed the competencies that you've established. Also professors, listening in onto final client presentations, and as Tiffany alluded to, that giving that feedback and mentoring and coaching over the course of the project will be important in the competency development as well. And finally, getting some organizational feedback as well. What does the partner say about it? Was it valuable to them? And, this is a small example of what we'll use for some of our projects in business. But, how was the quality of the work? Were students punctual? How was their communication? And we have several pages. I just gave a little snapshot. Happy to share if anyone would like to see it. But it just gives the professor and the student a little bit of feedback as to how valuable that project actually was. Then the reflection side. After having worked years in co-op and cooperative education, work integrated learning, I can tell you that reflection piece from students is probably one of the toughest, most challenging things to get them to realize that this is so important for your learning. Reflect upon what you've learned, what this experience has given you. So if you're looking at something for formal reflection, I encourage you to think about it can be fun. We have one of our options as a blog. So, use WordPress, Tumblr, integrate videos, integrate GIFs, or a vlog even if your students are open to it. And you can have a lot of fun. We use NACE's career readiness competencies here, but, just getting students to think about what did they develop? What were some of the challenges they had and provide some examples. And this is really valuable for them moving forward in terms of developing resumes and interview skills later on. And finally, I have to bring in Dr. Seuss because I love Dr. Seuss. I also, maybe because I have a 5-year-old. So for those of you that have kids, you'll probably have read this book. But what the heck does this have to do with reflection and EL? We actually created a really fun using Oh, the Places You'll Go reflection piece where students had to read the book. We pulled out a couple of the salient quotes, but then let students pull out some of the salient quotes. So if you've never read it, you'll know that it's talking about life that has its ups and downs. So we use that as inspiration for students in a little bit of a more fun and creative way to say, okay, here are some of the challenges I encountered, or here are the things that went well, or here are the things that didn't go well. So you really can have a lot of fun with that reflection piece. The next question that I often get when I'm working with professors and helping build these types of applied research projects or any type of experiential learning, say, oh my goodness, what competencies do we measure? Well, maybe the answer you don't want to hear is that's really up to you. Some departments specifically have competencies that they've outlined as priorities. Some are institutional wide. At Bishops, we have 11 academic core competencies, so we often refer to those. But I offer you a couple of resources that we've used in the past that are, I think, very valuable. Evers, Rush, and Bordeaux offer 20 different competencies. Denise Jackson, who I'm a big fan of, especially with respect to work-integrated learning, actually offers 40 competencies in 4 major categories. And finally, if you're looking for something a little more concise, National Association of Colleges and Employers have 8. So if you're interested, then I would say, go check these out, but they're also a lot of other researchers out there that talk about competency development. Few tools and platforms that are out there. I'll let Jennifer take the way on RIIPEN, but I think RIIPEN right now is very timely for a lot of us, for both students and faculty, especially in an online or hybrid feel. And I think it sort of takes down the barriers of distance that some of us are often constrained to. I don't know if your campuses are currently connected with Campus Connect, but that is also a national database of work-integrated learning opportunities, including applied research projects, internships, volunteer, and summer work. Connect with your EL or your WIL or co-op offices. I like to work very closely with my colleague in co-op. Sometimes we'll bring someone in as a guest speaker and all of a sudden find out that they'd like to hire a student for an internship or a co-op placement. On the flip side, the co-op office might be doing business development and realize maybe you don't need an intern per se. However, maybe a project is a little bit better suited. So work together. Entrepreneurship centers. I don't know what they're called in the Atlantic provinces. Here they're called CDCs, so Centre de Développement Communautaire. So community organizations are often really great places. They have central, lists of hundreds of different community and nonprofits. Using your own personal networks in LinkedIn, your alumni associations, Maple League schools are very well known for their high alumni engagement. So using your alumni association is great, and your local chambers of commerce. Finally, I'd like to put your attention to, as I alluded to previously, Dr. Jen Martin out of Niagara, the Niagara region, Brock University and Niagara College. They developed an EL toolkit. So eltoolkit.ca, everything design, delivery, facilitation, and evaluating experiential learning. If you're looking for a great place to start, and even if you're a seasoned EL professional, I promise they have templates. It's a really, really great resource that you can use. And I wanted to end with a few examples because often some of the questions are scale. How might I be able to scale this? Can first-year students do things? Should it be reserved for final year students? So I'm here to say you can do both. Here's an example of where we had 130 intro business students. They created a new logo and fundraising campaign for an NGO called MacLennan Sans Frontières that helps with medical treatments to children in impoverished nations. And let me tell you, the quality that came out from first years, if you're worried about it, you shouldn't be, because they're bright and brilliant. It's just a matter of making sure that, the challenge or the project fits their skill set. We also did some service learning. So William was one of our fourth-year business students. He did alternative spring break, where we work with local community organizations. He worked right here in Lennoxville with community aid. He got his hands dirty and went out and delivered food, but then also his main role was establishing new funding opportunities. So this is this very standalone for-credit opportunity. And finally, we were able, with a group of senior marketing students, to do an IMC plan for an engineering reporting app out of Montreal, where we were able to use video conferencing for interviews with our students. So from 1 to 130, it's definitely scalable. It's just up to the professor to figure out that what makes sense for them and what they're able to do. I will not go over this. This is the worst slide I recognize in the world. So I'll leave it there for recording if you want to go to it. And Tiffany alluded to a lot of these a lot of the wins are the same. But, confidence, maturity, understanding the workplace, getting a better understanding of what an organizational reality is, professional skills, leadership, citizenship. These are all things that are going to help our students become more career ready in transition. And I think regardless of whatever academic department we're in, at the end of the day, I think we want our students to transition successfully into a career that's meaningful for them, and that they're, good citizens and good people when they leave our institutions. So I'm going to leave you with a very hopeful thought and my hopes for the future. And we've seen a little bit of this on campus at Bishops, where we've had plans. In the spring, we had psychology and business students work on an awareness campaign for sports bras and youth. So my hope is maybe that we focus a little less on, specific degrees and programs, but maybe a little bit more on developing those transversal competencies that are important, those soft skills, that emotional intelligence that so many of these experiential learning opportunities allow for our students. So thank you. I will pass it over to Jennifer.
Well, hello everyone. My name is Jennifer Lussier. I am Senior Relationship Manager at RIIPEN and one of your dedicated RIPEN representatives. Part of my role is to assist and guide faculty in creating and offering meaningful work-integrated learning opportunities for students. And I wanted to begin by introducing and telling you a bit about how RIPEN came to be. It's important to know that RIPEN is a Canadian platform that facilitates work-integrated learning opportunities for post-secondary students. RIPEN came to be in 2013, and it's the fruit of two students at the University of Victoria who, when they were nearing the end of their studies, despite the fact that they had done co-ops, that they had done internships, that they were also active volunteers in their respective communities, but despite all that, they still didn't know what they were going to do once they graduated. And luckily, one of their educators that year decided to invite an industry partner to collaborate with the students on the realization of a project for course credits. And that's really when the light bulb moment happened, because they quickly realized that they were much more motivated and engaged towards this industry partner for the collaboration for the project. And it enabled them to develop their professional skills and expand their network of industry contacts with this new prospective employer. And what happened in the end is that one of their fellow students that actually stood out during the project received a job offer from the employer because they had needs in that sense. Okay, so what happened in the end with the little story that I was telling as to how RIPEN came to be is that one of the fellow students that actually stood out during the realization of the project received a job offer from the employer because they had needs in that sense. And so that's really how RIPEN came to be, because our mission is to eliminate graduate underemployment by empowering new talent to reach their full potential by developing their skills and relationships in the workplace. Now, how do we do so? You could change the slide, Tiffany. Thank you. So we have three main areas of activities on the RIPEN platform. So we facilitate curriculum-embedded assignments, such as project-based learning and case competitions. We also facilitate co-curricular activities, such as challenges, hackathons, and boot camps. With regards to challenges, these could be industry-led, faculty-led, and even student-led with, for example, a student association running a challenge on the RIPEN platform. So all of those types of challenges are possible. And also in response to COVID-19, we are now facilitating virtual student placements on the RIPEN platform, such as co-ops, internships, and practicums. Like I said, we help prepare the students for the future of work by allowing them to expand their network of contacts, provide them with enhanced career clarity, boost, I'm getting there, thank you, boost their employability, gain relevant experience, and develop their skills, plus having industry validation on the skills developed by the students. Yes, you could change the slide, thank you. So Why is helping post-secondary students develop the right skills so important, especially in this age of digital disruption? According to a 2018 National Association of Colleges and Employers survey, they have noted that there's a big gap between the perception of graduate skills proficiency and what the employers actually think. So, for example, with professionalism, leadership, communication, critical thinking, there's a big gap with regards to how the students perceive themselves and versus how employers perceive the new recent graduates' proficiency in these skills. But overall, there's still a gap that needs to be answered, and that's where RIIPEN can come and help and mend these gaps and bridging these gaps. You could change the slide, please. Thank you. So in the work-based learning is one of the best ways for all students to develop the skills needed in this age of disruption. While traditional work-integrated learning is not necessarily accessible to all students, virtual project-based learning can be shorter term, easily accessible and customizable, can be carried out exclusively online or in person, but online is possible, and in groups where each student can showcase their own expertise and skills while learning from others and further develop themselves as future professionals. You could change the slide. Thank you. So why is virtual project-based learning is highly regarded but rarely implemented? And why is that? So I have in the next slide a few ideas as to what could be the barriers for educators and high seniors in post-secondary establishments. For example, there could be a lack of connections with employers or not have access to the right employers to collaborate with the students. There's also lack of oversight in the sense that educators don't necessarily have the visibility into the communications between the students and the employers. No practical application. I don't have a good way to integrate the class pedagogy into practice. Perhaps lack of time. I don't have time to design these projects from scratch for my students. Or an inability to manage. I don't necessarily have a good way to organize the employers and the projects. It's all done manually. So those are the barriers for educators. Now we have on the next slide the barriers for senior university administrators. Some ideas. So risk management. They might not have much insight into the potential risks to the students and the risks to their institution's reputation. Perhaps a lack of standardization. Every professor and department does things in their own way. Missing metrics. They don't have a centralized real-time method for tracking numbers in student projects and outcomes. Inequity. Traditionally, work-based learning is often limited to a certain group of students, and they don't necessarily know how to make it more inclusive. There's also could be a barrier with regards to costs. They don't necessarily have the budget to ensure that every student gets the experience needed to be employable. And that's where RIIPEN can come and help. Tiffany, you could change the slide, please. Thank you. So RIIPEN's virtual project-based learning platform leverages thousands of businesses and nonprofit partnerships to help higher education easily implement and scale projects that enhance student employability. It changes. So what does the RIIPEN platform offer? We offer design resources. We have the world's largest project-based learning library. We have templates that have been created to help faculty design. We have an open marketplace for ideas and inspiration. So there's a lot of help and resources available, as I am also available to help design these activities on the RIIPEN platform for educators. We also have a large network allowing educators to access over 5,000 innovative companies. These range from all types and sizes, from startups, family-owned businesses, SMEs, nonprofits, associations, all the way up to big corporations such as RBC, IBM, Walmart Canada, Freedom 55, just to name a few. We also have we offer a wide selection of projects. We have over 3,000 projects right now from all our industry partners in a variety of functions, disciplines, and industry. We also offer white glove service with regards to matchmaking, the educators' activities and industry opportunities. We boast over a 90% success matching rate to ensure quality. With regards to project implementation, we offer a streamlined life cycle management, including full project management feature set that is customized for instructors, educators, and students. And we also have a reporting tool on the platform to track feedback and assessments, to verify and validate the students' skills and knowledge, and to record and report on all activity across campus. You could change the slide, please. Thank you. We have, for example, a messaging platform integrated within the RIIPEN platform that allows all parties to communicate together. So educators can communicate amongst themselves. They can also communicate with the industry partners, but the students can also, for the project, communicate with the industry partners should they have questions or should they need a specific document. The industry partner will be able to provide the information to the students via the messaging platform and even upload a document and render it available to the students. It's also very important to know that for any conversation between the students and the industry partners that they have been paired up with, the instructors are always automatically added to the chat groups so they can monitor the conversation. They can make sure that the students are demonstrating a professional attitude. They're using a professional language when exchanging with the industry partner. Each and every student that participates in an activity on the RIIPEN platform, whether it's a curriculum embedded assignment, a co-curricular activity, or a virtual placement, will receive a virtual portfolio. The virtual portfolio will present all the activities on which the student has worked on, with what company or association, what were the comments, the feedback, the evaluation provided by the industry partner on the collaboration carried out with the student. And so these, and also recommendations to drive employability. So the virtual portfolio will become a precious asset that will complement the diploma for the students upon graduation, because they will not only be able to showcase the knowledge that the knowledge they received through the diploma, but they will also be able to present their virtual portfolio showcasing real world projects carried out with actual industry partners, and also demonstrate the skills that they have shown during the project that are validated, that are vetted by the industry partner. The RIIPEN platform also offers milestones to help keep track of the work carried out by the students. Every time a student completes a milestone, the industry partner will be invited to confirm whether or not the milestone has been completed and provide feedback for the student. So it helps everyone keep track and make sure that the students are working along towards completion, successfully completing the project with the industry partner. You could change the slide, please. Thank you. And the RIIPEN platform helps educators save a lot of time all throughout the process if we compare it to the traditional way of doing things. So for example, with the design setup, like I said, educators have access to numerous templates, hundreds of templates to efficiently design a class rather than starting from scratch, spending many hours designing a project-based course. With regards to matchmaking, our platform will formulate recommendations to educators on industry projects that could suit their needs. And the educators are also able to go and look at on the open industry project marketplace to see what projects are available and request a match. There's always also support and assistance from myself and my team to help make suggestions on projects that could be a good fit with the assignment or the activity that is proposed by an educator on the RIIPEN platform. At RIIPEN, we really offer a white glove service in the sense that there is support and assistance all throughout the process. We also help educators save time with regards to project management with our management suite, all our management tools that are built in on the platform. So there's no separate emails, spreadsheets, files that are stored separately. Everything is housed on the Ryphen platform for easy management and accessibility. Also, with regards to reporting, instead of reporting outputs, so for all the deliverables that are produced by the students, it's all housed on the Ryphen platform again, instead of having them in different files left and right and having the educators having to look for them. So it's all housed on the Ryphen platform for easy access. And also for reporting. The Ryphen platform offers real-time, automated, and aggregated reporting with key metrics instead of having educators having to manually create a report on the activities, on work integrated learning activities for their students. So like I said, all throughout the whole process, Ryphen helps save time for educators. Yes, you could change the slide. Thank you. And the Ryphen platform is a win-win solution for students, educators, leadership, and also industry partners. The students will learn high-demand skills. They will build their employer network through collaboration with industry partners. They will gain career clarity by putting into practice what they are learning, and they will quickly know if it's something that they would like to do in real life. They also learn real-world remote working skills through virtual collaboration with the industry partner. And they also have increased engagement and satisfaction, as is much more motivating and engaging working on a project with an actual industry partner, knowing that the industry partner would be using the work carried out by the students to implement within their business to meet their objectives and their needs. So it's much more engaging for the students. The educators, through project-based learning, they can stay up to date with the latest in-demand skills from the industry. They also have access to thousands of employers through the Ryphen platform. It also helps educators improve their students' learning outcomes by putting these into practice. It also helps educators increase their course popularity among students, because the students will promote and be sponsors for the course that they have carried out a work integrated project as part of. And it's easily set up and managed project-based learning for the educators. The leadership, they also enhance student retention, because if the students are engaged and motivated, they will remain at that institution. They will remain students. They also expand the network of companies, of contacts, by having all these new industry partners that they have easy contacts with. It also helps them improve their students' employability and employment outcomes by providing the students with these meaningful learning opportunities. It increases the students' access to make project-based learning more equitable on the Ryphen platform. And it also allows leadership to easily measure growth and impact of project-based learning through our tools. And yes, thank you, Tiffany. Yes. And we keep good company in the sense that we currently have over 200 post-secondary institutions on the Ryphen platform. These are located all across Canada, the United States, Mexico, the United Kingdom, and also Australia with RMIT. We have over 5,000 companies and nonprofits on the Ryphen platform, and we have so far been able to provide over 50,000 meaningful work integrated learning opportunities to students via the Ryphen platform. And I would just wanted to give a few logos of the post-secondary establishment that we have on the Ryphen platform that are Canadian. Yes. Yes, thank you, Tiffany. Yes, you could change, absolutely. As for the next steps, I would like to invite everyone to sign up to Rypen, to the Rypen platform. This presentation will be shared as a takeaway after today's session, and you will be able to click on the link and sign up to the Rypen platform. I am also available for individual or group consultations, demonstrations, or workshops. And you will also have my meeting link where you'll be able to reserve a moment directly in my agenda. And I've also organized some Maple League virtual office hours. So every Monday from July 13th to August 31st, with the only exception of August 10th, I'm going to be available via Zoom from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time to discuss your ideas, answer your questions, and help you get started on the platform. And I have added the Zoom link also to this presentation, and you'll be able to click on that Zoom link to come and ask me your questions. So I apologize for the technical difficulties that we had initially. And you have my email address and also my colleague, Tiffany Johnson. So Tiffany is an onboarding specialist, and she helps me assist and guide a faculty. So I am available, or Tiffany is also available to help you get started on Rypen. Thank you very much, everyone.